Hey, it's Rob. I hope you're having a fantastic day or night. I've chosen to shoot this particular clip in the evening as a representation of the mental and emotional dark places many are sinking into due to the overextended uncertainty of the pandemic and the restrictions imposed on us based on facts that vacillate from day to day. Something happened to me several weeks ago, and it's happened again several times since, all with the same response. And I believe it's worth sharing as a reflection of the dangerous climate that we're cultivating as a nation and the desperate need for hope that is becoming more and more apparent. Regardless of what side of the COVID fence you're on, in regards to quarantines, social distancing, masks, vaccines, and all things pandemic, the climate we are told to perpetuate continues to foster an overwhelming sense of fear. Fear that has been a driving force for over a year now, and it's weighing heavily on the mind, soul, and overall health of mankind. For those who are truly watching, you've already identified these quickly digressing effects. Our economy, our health, the mental well being of our family, friends, and fellow members of our communities are becoming the victims, not victims of a virus outbreak, but victims of a fear based narrative that is suffocating the life out of many. A few weeks ago, my family and I went to one of our local restaurants to enjoy some fellowship together. Of course, our party was larger than what one table could hold, and we pulled together a few of the tables. Those who were masked, unmasked, and we enjoyed some quality time over a warm meal prepared for us by a great staff. Before I left, I walked up to the soda fountain to refill my drink. A young lady who sounded quite frustrated and confused was talking to the staff about whether or not she was supposed to get her own drink or not. And they politely said, yes, she is. She stepped up behind me, and since I could tell she was flustered, I turned to her with a big smile and said, it's okay. It happens to all of us. She hesitantly laughed and shared that it can be so confusing regarding the COVID requirements. One minute, one way is not okay, then the next minute it is. I looked at her and added, until it's not again. And she looked at me surprised. So I went on to share that I had recently returned from a trip across the country and was amazed at how the restrictions are quite flexible, depending on whose bottom line it affects. At the airports, with 30-foot high ceilings and tons of space, we were required to social distance in addition to the mask mandate as we stood in the check-in lines. Yet 30 minutes later, these same people are all sitting shoulder to shoulder inside a flying metal tube with 200 other passengers. And as long as you are actively eating or drinking, you weren't required to wear your mask. All of this, and never once was my temperature taken or any of the standard COVID survey questions asked. Yet I can't even enter my doctor's office for a routine checkup without correctly answering the 3-question survey, having a temperature check, and having a mask. At this point, the woman looked at me in disbelief as she shook her head and said, I know, I'm so sick of this. To which I responded, I agree. And I think it's time that we all start living again. She looked at me over her mask with a question in her eyes, so I went on to share. I told her that I think we should be able to responsibly exercise our free will again. For example, if you feel that you are more comfortable wearing a mask, then I'm fine with that, and I won't judge you at all. In the same light, I hope you're okay with the fact that I am not wearing one. then let's just enjoy the time we have with each other and refocus on living again. The woman's eyes brightened. Her shoulders loosened up from the stress, and her arms relaxed to her side as she tilted her head slightly and said with a renewed hope in her voice, "Thank you so much. I really needed to hear that." We shared a glimpse of hope and parted with a smile. Another revealing moment transpired while recently attending a local in-person gathering of community leaders. As the attendees arrived, I welcomed them into the event room. I shared that this was a mask-optional zone, explaining that they are welcome to remain masked or they're free to unmask. It was their choice, and we support their decision. I then extended an invitation to connect with the attendees in whatever way they felt comfortable, whether it be an air five or a fist bump, a handshake, or even a hug. It almost brought me to tears as one by one their eyes lightened. They would breathe a huge sigh of relief, the weight of the pandemic visibly lifting from off their shoulders. They took their mask off, grabbed my hand, engaged in a handshake or a hug, and said, "Thank you so much." And looking around the room at the warm fellowship that was taking place, said, "This gives me hope again." Once again, we shared a glimpse of hope and a smile. This same scenario has played out multiple times over the past couple of months, and a glimmer of hope has been restored to many that I've encountered. You see, fear-based control only lasts for so long without producing severe negative long-term consequences. Now, please don't misunderstand my intention. I'm not talking about being irresponsible or a lack of courtesy. From the beginning, I have made a point of being sensitive to those I'm with, while also not being enslaved by the government-imposed mandate. There are times, if I feel a person I am meeting with is more comfortable wearing a mask, then I will gladly put one on. But I'm finding more and more frequently that not wearing a mask in certain situations invites the other person to restore hope and give them permission to once again use their free will. The bottom line is this: as much as we want to be protected from anything detrimental, we are all going to die. It's a part of this beautiful gift of life. These type of fear-based manipulations will only add to the detrimental effects we are beginning to see and will sadly be dealing with the residual for years to come. But you see, my confident hope is not birthed out of a misplaced arrogance that I cannot be affected by a virus or any other crisis. Instead, it is grounded in my understanding that regardless of my circumstance or crisis, it's not about what I'm going through, why I'm going through it, or how I can fix it. Much of the time, I have no control of those questions. My unshakable confidence comes in the understanding of whose I am. Christ sacrificed himself at Calvary to take upon the punishment of my sins, to give this wicked sinner a new heart, to reconcile me back to my heavenly Father, and then clothe me in his righteousness. It is because of this and this alone that I know whose I am. I am his. And knowing this, every crisis, every pandemic, every threat to life and liberty pales in comparison to the extent the Father went to demonstrate his unrelenting love for me and for every soul that has ever graced this planet. You see, knowing whose I am allows me to live in this blessed space of God's grace, where I am free, even in the midst of fear and chaos. So whether or not you choose to mask, quarantine, social distance, or vaccinate, let's make the bolder choice to live again and encourage others to do the same. Let's share some hope and a smile. God bless you and your precious families on this wonderful day.